Happy New Year, everyone, and a very warm welcome. So thank you so much for joining us today. This is quite a busy time already because we're about to go back into our January transition. My name is Magali, and I am a medical herbalist. I'm also an inner trauma release therapist. And I run two teams of therapists for seed wellness. One is in Amersham and Chesham, and the other one is in Berkhamsted. For those who are new to Seed Wellness, so we are a community-focused network of therapists, and we are across Hertfordshire, Buckinghamshire, Berkshire, and also London as of quite recently. Our mission is to provide you with knowledge, practical tools, and compassionate support for your family's well-being journey. We are your local toolkit and support network, and we are deeply rooted in the community. Today, we're focusing on one of the most critical transitions of the year, guiding your child with neurodiversity back to school with calm and confidence. So before we dive in, let's take a little moment to clarify what we mean by neurodiversity. It is a concept that recognizes the natural and valuable variation in human brain wiring. So it includes conditions like autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, and Tourette syndrome. And there are quite a few others, but I'm not going to mention them now. So a child with neurodiversity might experience the world with incredible depth, showing intense passion, creativity, and unique problem-solving skills. But they may also face a very real challenge with things like sensory processing, emotional regulation, executive functions, and by executive functions, I mean things like planning or transitions, and also challenges with social communication. So it's important to know that many children are navigating this without a formal diagnosis. So the child might be labeled as anxious, oppositional, or daydreamer, when what's really happening is a neurodivergent mind trying to cope in a world that's not really designed for it. And in fact, today we have an estimation of about 15 to 20% of the population of neurodiversity. And a significant portion is actually girls. So whether your child has already a diagnosis, or whether you're on a waiting list, or whether you simply think they might be struggling in ways that don't really fit the typical mold, this conversation is for you. And the experience that you have is absolutely valid. Right, we're going to go into the transitions about January and why this is kind of challenging for your children. So often we think of January as an idea of a fresh start, and it's a time for exciting new resolutions. But actually, for a child with neurodiversity and their families, this shift from the holiday into the classroom can feel less like a fresh start and more like a deep, chaotic storm. The contrast between the break and the school demands is jarring. So we are going to break this into four key pressures. Firstly, we have the routine whiplash. Over the holiday, the structures have dissolved, sleep schedule shifts, the days are unstructured, and demands are actually quite low. And suddenly we are asking our children to snap back to early starts, rigid timetables, and constant performance. It's a seismic shift for any nervous system, and especially one that thrives on predictability. Secondly, we have the sensory and the diet shift. So we move from the controlled home environment, familiar foods, comfortable clothes, manageable noise, to the sensory cacophony of school, buzzing lights, crowded hallways, loud cafeterias, and scratchy uniforms. So concurrently, we shift from holiday foods, often higher in sugar and additive, back to perhaps a different diet. And these double hits on the sensory system and gut health can fuel dysregulation. Thirdly, the cognitive and the social demand. So after a period of lower demand, the child is suddenly required to focus, process instructions, manage homework, navigate complex social landscape. And the cognitive load skyrockets. while the social batteries is drained by the sheer effort of masking and navigating peer interactions. And finally, we have the relational ripple effect, and this stress doesn't exist in a vacuum. The child's anxiety becomes the family anxiety. Meltdowns, school refusal, homework battles create a cycle of parental guilt, frustration, and feeling utterly overwhelmed. Often our own triggers, stemming from our past, of our own unmet needs can get activated, and this makes it harder to respond calmly as a parent. So, if you're feeling anxious about next week, or if you're bracing for the morning battles or the afternoon fallout, please know this. You are not failing and you're not alone. You are facing a real multi-layered challenge. And today is about moving from feeling powerless to feeling a bit more proactive. And we're here to give you and your child compassionate, practical toolkits. Not just to survive the transition, but to navigate it with ease and connection. So let's begin. We're going to start by introducing each other. And we'll just say our name, what is the therapy that we offer, and where we are based. So I'm going to hand over the mic to Suzanne. If you want to unmute yourself, Suzanne, and let's go.
Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year, and lovely to see some faces that I know that have joined us as well. So I'm Suzanne, and I call myself a children's and families wellbeing practitioner, and I am based in Berkhamsted. And I will tell you more later.
Thank you, Suzanne. And I think you said you were in Berkhamsted. I don't know if I missed that. So,
yeah. And based in Berkhamsted, and I work in the surrounding areas as well.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Suzanne. I think we can go with Carolina next.
Hi, guys. Good morning. I am Carolina Taylor. I'm a parenting and life coach located in Amersham. I work with parents of children of infancy to early teens. I work with parents, not with the children. I support parents to slow down and understand what's happening inside them first, because when parents feel more regulated, children often do too. My approach is reflective, nervous system aware, and rooted in emotional regulation. I don't focus on quick fixes or telling parents what to do. Instead, I help them reconnect with their values, understand their reaction, and find small and realistic ways to respond with more calm and compassion, especially when challenging moments are happening. My approach is very practical and supportive, designed for real family life.
Thank you so much, Carolina. Louise?
Hi, I'm Louise, and I'm a child nutritional therapist, specialising in supporting families with picky eating, sensory sensitivity, and nourishing the neurodivergent brain. And I'm based near Great Missington, Amersham Way, but I work remotely on Zoom. So I can. That's the way my clinic works at the moment, not face to face.
Thank you so much, Louise. So next, we're going to go into building that family toolkit. And each of us is going to introduce a little bit more on how we support transitions in this time, and then we'll give you a free actionable strategy for this week. Whilst you're listening to this, you're very welcome to pop in any questions in the chat box that you might have, because at the end of that, we will go into live Q&As and we'll be happy to answer anything you have. Okay, so Suzanne.
Hi, so I work with children and parents to support their well-being. I see us very much as a team around the child. And for me, it's very much about coaching the parent, a bit like Carolina does, to support parents to step back from their child's behaviour and understand what's going on for them. And then to work one-to-one with the child as well, to really get the child to start to recognise and understand their feelings and validate those feelings, hold that space for them, and then give them tools and strategies, practical strategies to help them. That can include mindful techniques. It can include them understanding how their thoughts, feelings and reactions all connect. And I also teach them about the brain and what's going on for them. So again, sort of getting them to understand what that behaviour is trying to communicate. So I tried to think about what my key top tips might be, particularly for after school. So if you think about it, your child has maybe had quite a lot of connection time with you over the holiday. They've, like Maggie said, not had routine and structure in the same way. For some, that works, and for some, they might be really craving that routine. Personally, I know that routine really supports us. It helps children to feel safe and secure, and life becomes more predictable, and they feel more in control. So my top tips I'm going to share are for after school pickup. The first one is really important, and it's checking in with you and how you're feeling emotionally. So even before you go and pick your child up, I would really encourage you to put your phone away, not spend that last few minutes of scrolling through your phone, trying to catch up, communicate with people. Put your phone away and take that time to pause and take a breath and really check in with how you're feeling. And I know Carolina is going to share some breathwork techniques, so we're not going to overlap there, so I won't do that bit. Why that's so important is your child is only as regulated as their parents are, and then you are their model. So be the behaviour that you want to see. The next thing is to reconnect or connect with your child after the school day and greet them fully present. That might just be with a smile. If your child likes a hug. Some of your children might not like a hug, so it might be a high five or a fist bump. Anything really to make that connection. Assume that their nervous system is a bit like a fizzy bottle and they'll be full. So as Maggie said, the classroom environment is very sensory. They will have had a really full-on high-pressured day in a sensory environment. They won't really know how they're feeling. They haven't had that pause time that hopefully you've just taken. So assume that they are a fizzy bottle and don't bombard them with lots of questions. They will talk to you when they're ready and their head will be full of just needing to release. So assume they haven't drunk anything. In schools, we do encourage them to drink, but they will be dehydrated. So my advice is greet them with a nice cold bottle of water, nice, healthy, crunchy snacks. That's really good. It helps them regulate. I know that Louise will talk more about that, but I would advise carrots, breadsticks, hummus, a cucumber, celery, any of those sort of things, really healthy snacks. Think about what you're putting into your child. It's really important. And then imagine they need to release some of that fizzy bottle. So actually, if possible, I would encourage them to have a run around the park, run around, let off some of that stored up energy. A lot of our children will have been holding in a lot where they weren't able to move as much as they would like to. If that might be going to the park, swinging, spinning, monkey bars, anything like that's really good for releasing that stored up energy and emotion. Trampoline, this time of year it's harder. I really recommend a peanut ball at the moment. If you don't know what one of those is, it's an inflatable, sort of bit like a yoga ball. Really great for in the home. Children can bounce on it, they can roll on it, and it really helps with regulating their nervous system. So you want that energy release. And then it's so important, I really encourage you, I know it's busy at the end of the school day and they'll be going to clubs and so forth, but plan in some one-to-one quiet time with your child before they go to bed, because they need that connection. That's what makes them feel safe. When they're demanding your attention, it's because that's their biggest reward. They want to have that time with you. And that's the bit that I think that children really, really miss when they go back to school. So keep that, build that relationship, have that one-to-one time. That might be through calm colouring, drawing, Lego, anything that's mindful, that's side by side, and let your child take that lead. So, and then finally, end with a story. What's a really nice way to end is actually, if your child is still full of energy, sit, lay on the floor, put your legs up against the wall, and connect in that way. Again, it releases and relaxes that nervous system. And finally, end the day, however the day's been, by reflecting on 3 things that have either gone well, that your child is grateful for or proud of. It's a really nice way to end the day in a positive way. And that's the way that they will then go to sleep with that nice happy hormone in their body to relax their nervous system. So that's my top tips on after school pickup and reconnecting with your child.
Thank you, Suzanne. There was lots there. Thank you.
Yeah, that was, sorry. I could have said more, so.
That's okay. Carolina?
Hello. Okay, so as we know, the 2 weeks during the Christmas holiday, it can be sometimes a bit overwhelming for parents and for children. And my top tips will be for the parents. I want to focus on how you are feeling, and because when we regulate as parents, like I said before, children feel that and they feel safe when they're around you as a parent. So my first tip would be check on how you are feeling. This weekend, just before school starts, how you feeling? Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling a bit worried about the kids going back to school? Are you feeling calm? So when you start acknowledging how you're feeling, you can also ask yourself, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, what do I need? What do I need right now? That doesn't mean that it means that you need to start working on thinking on how you're going to go back to routine next week. Would it be trying to talk to your child about how next week is going to be? So what I want you to think is taking that time for yourself and acknowledge how the next coming days will be for you. Especially because we are sometimes just doing, and we don't stop we don't pause to actually acknowledge, okay, we are starting next week, things are changing, we're going back to routine. When you do this, your nervous system, if you're feeling stressed and overwhelmed, you are telling your nervous system, wait, everything is okay. We don't need to stress. We will have the tools to work on this situation. The next tip I would like to share with you is create a calm toolbox. What is a calm toolbox? I call it a toolbox because it's something you can go back and check what things are useful for you to feel calm and things that can make you reset when you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed, especially when the kids started school and you had a morning that was a bit stressful. So what things you can do that can help you go back to a more calm and reset space. So those things that could be in your calm toolbox could be going for a walk, play some music, reading exercises. I will encourage you to add a list of things that could take 1 minute that help you to reset to things that could take 20 minutes, like doing exercise. So it's those things that will help you to regulate and calm just your nervous system when you have had those feelings that are not that enjoyable. When we do this, again, that help us to regulate when our children are coming back from school or we start the next day with a better, fresh mind. I will encourage as well to do that exercise with your child, or if you start noticing what things are also calm your child, so you can create a calm toolbox for your child as well. So you both can have one that you can always go back to when you're feeling the need of reset, or sometimes that me time that will help you feel calm. And the other tip that I would like to share, like Susan mentioned, is some breathing exercises. Why? Because then when the moments are very challenging, when you're feeling like you might lose it, sometimes pausing and resetting with some deep breath that can help you to feel, okay, I'm pausing, I don't want to react, how can I really respond to what is challenging right now when my child is back from school and he just had a massive meltdown. So, and if you're not in the right mindset, you might respond the way that you actually want. So, two breath work exercises that I really like to suggest are, one is the box breathing, which is you take a moment, you pause, and you start breathing for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 4, and then breathe out for 4, and hold for 4. You can repeat that a couple of times, and then you will start feeling that your inside you start calming down. Another good breath work exercise is you take a breath, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just breathe out very slow, counting unto 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. And repeat it 3 times, 4 times until you start feeling, I'm putting my hand here, I'm not sure if you can see on your chest, and you start feeling that sensation of calm, like things are okay. So you're sending that signal to your nervous systems that things aren't, it's not a tiger that's coming to attack you. It's that you can handle the situation in the best way. So I think those are my 3 top tips. Your checking on how you're feeling, your calm toolbox, and your breathing exercises.
Thank you so much, Carolina. That was very helpful. Thank you. Louise?
Hi. So as a nutritional therapist, I focus on the type of foods that fuel the brain and the nervous system. So like we've talked about the stress of transition from a calm holiday environment to that intense school demands. And some children experience high cortisol, fight or flight. And there are key nutrients that I'm going to talk about today that help have that kind of grounding role. They help with that emotional regulation, improve focus and stabilize energy. So that transition is less overwhelming. And one of the key nutrients are healthy fats, such as omega-3, which you find in oily fish, some eggs, if their chickens are fed on flax seeds, plant sources are walnuts and chia seeds. Obviously, foods that some children, or as parents, will struggle to encourage them to eat. And that's a big part of my role, is rather than asking parents to provide, feed their children salmon, I'll come up with solutions to help encourage those healthy fats. But what omega-3 does, it acts like a brake. So when a child is starting to get quite anxious and can't self-regulate, omega-3 nourishes the brain and helps the brain sort of work much calmer and smoother and more regulated. So one of my top tips of trying to boost a child's omega-3 is getting flax seeds into porridge or pancakes, sort of their favorite foods, or into flapjacks or brownies. So you can get those healthy fats if they struggle with the sensory smell of fish or the flavors. Another key nutrient is choline, and that helps the brain's messaging system. So again, has a very much calming effect, helps with that emotional regulation. And so children who include eggs in their diet, again in pancakes and waffles and things like that, that can help reduce that overwhelm. Another key nutrient is protein, and that's because protein contains amino acids like tryptophan, which helps produce the neurotransmitter serotonin, which has a very calming effect with children. So again, it's trying to get protein into the diet. And I don't know about you, but I know I've had a lot of sweet treats over Christmas. And when we're snacking on these sweet treats, sometimes I can feel quite agitated after. And that's due to a blood sugar roller coaster. So you'll have that sweet treat, or crisps or crackers or anything with white flour, white bread, and you'll get that blood sugar spike. And you'll suddenly get that crash. And when you get that crash, that's when you can be a bit shaky. You can be anxious. It can be demonstrated in that hangry. You want more carbs. And you start to see this sort of roller coaster because you reach for another chocolate bar. And sometimes bad children's anxiety or bad behavior is when they're experiencing that blood sugar crash. And what's really important is when they're having the sweet treats, we're not going to ban the sweet treats. That's something I would never recommend in clinic. But it's eaten alongside protein and healthy fats. And what that does is that slows the digestion of those white carbs and snacks. And and then it doesn't release into the blood system as quickly. And when you have that more gentle blood sugar regulation, that's when you can calm the mood, has that sort of calming effect. So the toolkit I wanted to share with you today is when we're at breakfast time, we do not want the children going to school with lots of sugar-fueled cereals. And if you can try and encourage some protein into breakfast, that can really help regulate that sort of calm that mood down. So they're going into school a lot calmer. So a pancake, as I said, with oats, eggs, flax seeds or nut butters and seed butters can boost that protein in the morning alongside their favorite cereal. And that can really help set them up ready for school that morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Louise. Right, so I did introduce myself a little bit at the start, but today what I'm going to bring on is not so much about the medical herbalism, because this is always the part which is very challenging for me. People, I mean, I wish I could create a potion that I would give your child and then send them right through in a calm setting. But herbs are very individual. So, while, for instance, chamomile can be really calming for one, it can actually agitate someone else, which is really interesting. So as medical herbalists, this is the biggest challenge we have, is to explain to people that it's not a herb for a symptom, as would be with conventional medicine. It's actually a completely tailored protocol where we look at somebody's entire body system, and then accordingly to that we will have different herbs. So 5 people with same thing will probably have 5 completely different prescriptions. So I'm just going to walk away from the herbs today, which is always hard for me. The other thing I do a lot in my work is supporting families and children through the inner trauma release therapy. And also I facilitate 2 days a week in an alternative provision on my farm, where I work with families and schools to support children with neurodiversity. So I do a lot of that support either with the children themselves or the family. Often parents will approach me to work with their children, and I'd say 80% of the time I tend to choose to work with the parents rather than the children. So the reason for this is, yes, often children are manifesting symptoms, but very commonly what the child is manifesting is actually something which is in the energetic field of the whole family and the parents themselves. So by working with the parents first, I would say 70% of the time, children will change their behavior as the parents are working on themselves. So for me, my priority is to support the parents. And today, I think one of the things that I really want to demonstrate here, what the importance of that is, this transition that we're all going through in January. If you go back to yourself, your own childhood, how was it for you when you went to school? And that's a very, very big, important starting point. Some of us will have zero memory, but some of us will. And just even checking that, do I still hold memory of my own anxiety as a child? How did it feel? How did I go to school? And if you can't remember, if you still have your parents around, you can ask them as well. And that's really interesting, because part of my work is crucial around what I call the inner child. So your own inner child. When you were 5, when you were 6, you will have hundreds of them. How does this inner child feel today? Because often we haven't actually released them, and that inner child is still kicking in. So when your child is going to school next week, your inner child is also activated and getting really anxious. And then what happens is your child, your actually real child today, can feel that and will manifest and will almost it will almost communicate to you what your own child is feeling, the younger you. So the starting point is to really connect there, and you can do that ideally, obviously, having a few minutes to yourself and just going back to that place. And what's really important, and I love to work with the somatic aspect, is to check in your body. You know, when you go back to how does it feel to go to school, is there a part in your body that feels either jittery, constricted? It can be the throat, it can be the chest. It's often one of those chakra points. And once you kind of go there and connect, is to just talk to yourself. You know, you have your adult you today, and the adult you is able to handle, you know, the transition. Your own younger self wasn't at the time, maybe didn't have the support, maybe mom and dad were too busy, maybe they had their own trigger. But the adult you today is a strong individual. And then you can use the adult you to talk to the younger you and explain that, okay, we can see that you feel anxious, we can see that. And you can hold your own younger self. So that's usually the first part, which is acknowledging your own trigger with these transitions. And then the other part that I love to invite a little bit in relationship to what was said before between Carolina and Suzanne is to connect with your own child, and so the real one, not the younger you, the one that's going to school on Tuesday, possibly next week, and to share that story with your child. How did you feel? You know, how was it for you when you went to school? Because your children love to hear those stories. And when you do that, not only you enable them to name their own feelings because you're naming your feelings, but also it helps them realize what's their emotion and what's your emotion. Because very often our children are expressing a part of us. So they're kicking off. And actually, if you take a step back, you realize, oh my God, I'm actually anxious. You know, I'm the one. But if you're not naming it, your child cannot make the difference. They're like a little sponge. And so for them, it's really helpful to make that distinction. Oh, okay, this is not my anxiety. This is mom or this is dad. And then that helps them navigate that for themselves. So you're basically doing two birds, one stone. So that would be my kind of my little freebie for the day, which for some of us might be really, really hard, especially if you've not done any work on yourself. So, you know, it's not a one-day process, and that can be a practice on an everyday, you know, every time something is happening. And actually, what I often say, and I do that myself at home, is when my kids are really becoming demanding, you know, when I feel like they're nagging me, I just take a step back and check in. How am I feeling right now? What's going on, you know? Because actually, often they're like a little mirror showing me I'm not present, I'm tired, I'm anxious, I'm disconnected. So our children can be our little gurus to an extent, you know, they're helping us check on ourselves. So hopefully, yeah, that will help you get a little bit, you know, through the way. And when I was listening to you, Susan, actually, I was thinking about the connection. There is this really good book, Playful Parenting. I highly, highly recommend that book, Playful Parenting. It gives you loads of little tools on how to create playful games with your child to reconnect. And that's really helpful, especially for meltdowns and things like that. So I just thought I'll try to add it to the email. I'll add a link to it as well so you can get it. Right, so that's for now. Has anybody got any questions on any of the parents listening to this right now? Please, you can either unmute yourself and ask it live or put a question in a chat box. Anything that you might, you know, want to ask more about what was said or struggle that you might have yourself or, you know, anxiety for next week. Yes. Okay, thank you, Daisy. Daisy, yeah, Daisy said she loved that book, so she's used it as well. If not, we can use one of because we get current questions thrown at us all the time. So yes, we could talk about possibly a situation with school refusal, how to handle a school refusal in the morning. And I think that might be one for Suzanne and Carolina, actually. If any of you want to have a go.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. Yeah, I think the important thing that we've already said with the school refusal, again, is very much check in with yourself, like everyone's just said, because even before a child, if you know your child is going to be anxious or they've already exhibited that, then you're already going to be feeling anxious yourself of, oh my goodness, how are they going to be this morning? So again, stop, check in with yourself. And remember that whilst we do, so my past experience was 30 years as a in primary school and a head teacher, and whilst it's important that we want to get children into school on time, because again, we want them to be part of that routine and structure, give yourself permission that if things are tricky in the morning, the more you are racing around and trying to get them into school, the more they're going to feel anxious, and they're not in a place then to go into school and learn anyway. So I would almost take that break off, pause, put the brake on, sorry, pause, and just, again, be open with them, empathize, connect with them and say, okay, I can hear that this is feeling difficult, tell me what it is that you're finding difficult at school. I would hope that you would be able to connect with your school to work with them, and I would encourage that. Some schools are not aware of what's going on in the home, and for me, it was very much about working with the parents and the children and the families to really see how you could support them. It may be that your child in school could work on what I call a soft start. So going into school, but not having to go straight into that work and learning, but actually maybe doing something more mindful, like colouring or going to feed the fish or something. So I would really try and take that time, and not in the moment. If the child is really struggling, when they're feeling more self-regulated, and you are too, that's the time to sit with them and recognise, I can see that this is feeling hard for you to go to school right now. Tell me a bit more about what's going on for you. What do you feel you need? And also focus on the positives of school. What are the things that they are looking forward to, that they do like? Normally, they will tell you quite often they like playtimes, or there's a certain subject they're looking forward to. So maybe look at, within the week, what are those things that they have got to look forward to. So there might be elements of school they don't like, but I would really, really encourage you to work with the school. And if you are struggling with that, that's when it's really important as well to tap into someone like myself or Carolina, and we can work on looking more in depth about what's going on for you and your child. It's quite a complex one. It's not a quick magic wand answer, I don't think. But yeah, I think empathizing with your child, and then for a child to feel emotionally safe and secure, they need to feel seen, heard and understood. So I think that's really important.
Thank you, Suzanne. Anyone else wants to add anything to that?
Yeah, could I ask a question on the diet, please, if that's possible?
Sure.
So everything you said makes sense: the protein, the omega oils, etc. But my son is very much a beige eater, and so does not go beyond a plain pasta, pizza. Is there any smaller steps to kind of improve their diet? Because
Yeah. Yeah.
I eat all the protein and follow everything you were saying, but I can lead by example, but he won't follow.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I have a son very similar, so which is why I fell into this supporting other families. So absolutely little steps, tiny steps. So pastas, so there's lots of lovely pastas out there that you can boost protein. So look at the back of pack, see if you can get an egg pasta. So even that can help boost their protein without them noticing, and it tastes very similar to a favourite pasta shape that they already like. It's the same colour. You can also get quinoa pasta. So quinoa is a really good source of protein, and I managed to get my son to try quinoa protein. And again, it's the similar colour. Because you don't want to go too extreme like wholemeal or anything like that has a color change. So look at your pastas. There's a lot of breads out there now that they're boosting protein. So like bagels, so they're safe breads. Pizza's brilliant. So if you can add a little bit of extra cheese to pizza than the ones that you get in the supermarket. So it's just little tiny steps. Keep it safe. Their baseline, and just by putting a little bit of extra cheese on there, you're upping their protein, and you're slowing down that blood sugar fluctuation. Does that help?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
I will add a couple of things because I also work with diet with children. So the other things, you can get chickpea as well, pasta as well, just to add to the list. And sometimes what you want to do as well is you just blend two type of pasta together or three, so it's not a sudden change as well. And the other thing you can do as well is to pancake, you can add protein powder to them as well. You can also slowly swap to what I call protein pancake, where you actually put more egg. You can also like not put milk almost. You can just put 8 eggs or 10 eggs, and then you'll end up with like a really good protein things. Sometimes you can also add a little bit of cottage cheese into the pancake recipe as well, which is again little things to like spiking their their food with protein basically. But yeah, if you want to, when we'll send an email, you're very welcome to ask for a few recipes. I can send you a couple of links as well. Just fire the questions.
Okay, thank you.
On my website as well, I have recipes for pancakes and things like that as well. So yeah. Please check
and
that out.
your bio will be in there, Louise, as well. So Nick, you'll be able to like click on that and just I think you'll have to go through the Seed Wellness bio page, and then that will take you to Louise's direct website. So you'll be able to get that.
Okay, thank you.
Daisy said, my kids like pancake with 1 egg to 1 banana and 1 teaspoon, I think that is, baking powder with some vanilla essence and a sneaky chia seed protein. Yeah, I think with chia, the only thing is you really want to soak them before. Sorry, this is my obsession. Like linseed, you really need to make sure they've been soaked. Otherwise, they'll just glue to the gut lining. But I'm assuming, Daisy, that's what you're doing. Or if not, then that's what you'll be doing going forward. Okay, well, I think we're coming to the end of this. We probably just, yeah. So yes, so thank you so much. And actually a big, massive thank you to Suzanne, Carolina, and Louise for sharing your wisdom and all the wonderful practical tools. So to the parents, remember that the goal isn't a perfect or quiet, calm transition, but it's connection. Yeah. So just pick 1 or 2 or 3 of the strategies to try this week, this weekend, perhaps, and hopefully baby steps to create really big shifts. We have a whole team of other specialists at Seed Wellness as well, who can support you. So we have practitioners such as acupuncture, sound therapy, breath work, functional medicine, homeopathy, and many more. And a lot of us work with children. So you'll be able to find all of us on the website, which is seedwellness.co.uk. You can also follow us on Instagram for daily tips and updates. And this is at Seed Wellness UK. And we are also on Facebook. And for our locals, you can find us at Seed Wellness, Berkhamsted, Amersham, and Chesham. But we will be sending a follow-up email with all of those links and the recording of this webinar. I think that's about it. So wishing you a beautiful start of the year and loads of connection. And yeah, hopefully a confident start next week. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.